Welcome back to the Kicks and Picks podcast. Coach Steve here, along with Scotty, coming off an 8-2 week. It was the first time we recorded as a trio in a few weeks before that. Nick said, "I think that's the magic. That's what got us to bounce back." And then here we are, opening the show, and there's only two of us on camera. Or if you're listening, there's only two of us that you're going to hear for now. Scott, I don't know. He's telling us it's the fact that three of us were back together and he's not here.
He's ruining the mojo. I mean, it's whatever happens this weekend, it's on him. My hands are clean. I put my picks in this morning. I got the podcast all set up and ready to record, per his request at 9:00 tonight. And here we are at 9:15, still no sign of Nick. He might show up late. There is a slight chance that he makes an appearance in time for the hat trick of picks. So maybe he can salvage this a little bit, but at least for the opening half hour, you're going to be stuck with just me and Coach.
I hope so. I mean, when you got the mojo going like that, like we did last week, felt really good to go 8-2. Podlock did not hit thanks to Stuttgart not getting the job done, but certainly feels good to get a nice winning record together, not just skirting by at like 5-4-1 or something like we've done a few times. So we're gonna look to do that again. Nick hopefully will be back to give out his picks. If not, he is texting him in the group, and we'll do it that way. But we hope to get him on at least for the feel of having all of us here for our pod lock. So, Scott, nothing going on in the Premier League this week. It's actually a week off. It's the FA Cup. So we're going to focus on Serie A this week. What games are we targeting here on this one? Because there's a couple big head-to-heads.
Yeah, we do. We have a couple that have what I'd call serious table implications. You've got Napoli at Lazio, which is probably going to be an important match for that fourth spot in the Champions League qualification. Those two teams are very heavily involved. And then we've got Inter at Fiorentina, which could be a tricky one for Inter. Obviously looking to win the Scudetto. Could drop points here, maybe open it up a little bit more, or maybe they get a commanding win and kind of push them forward into the title race a bit more. So I think we'll start off with Nick's club, Lazio. It's a real shame he's not here for this, but it also allows us to speak a little more frankly, and you won't hear a whole lot of Saudi out agenda in the middle of this. So looking at this one, looks like it's going to be a tightly contested affair. Lazio being the home squad, they get a little bit of an edge in the odds here. They're sitting at plus 125 money line. Draw at plus 200. Napoli at plus 220. Two clubs kind of going in different directions right now. Lazio, I think, winners of 4 straight in the league. Napoli kind of been, dropping results here and there. So where do you see this one landing, Coach? Do you think Lazio are kind of able to capture that home momentum and get 3 points here? Or do you think Napoli have something to say and maybe can get a little bit of a result on the road?
It's tough to tip either of these sides. Both have been so inconsistent. I still think the big issue for Napoli is going to be that Osimhen is still at AFCON, right? I believe Anguissa is still at AFCON as well. Two key pieces, starting striker, starting midfielder. And they haven't been in the best form without them. Even before they left, they weren't in the best form. Defensively, they've had some trouble. First to concede in 5 of their last 7 matches, and that's not a stat you ever really want in your favor. I mean, it works for Liverpool, I guess, right? Liverpool's top of the table, and it works for them. But Napoli hasn't shown the firepower this year to come back when they're down, which is the issue they're having. They're coming off the Supercoppa where they won in the semifinal against Fiorentina 3-0, lost in the final to Inter 1-0. Prior to that in the league, mixed bag. Going back to December, right before the holiday, Christmas holiday, 2-0 loss at Roma, 0-0 draw home for Monza. 3-0 loss at Torino. They finally bounced back with a win against last place Salernitana. That was pretty close to the death from what I remember watching that match. It was the 90, let's just look back, 90 plus 6 minutes of stoppage time that they found a winner there. So that was even by the skin of their teeth against the worst team in the league. And then you follow that up with those Supercoppa results and not a lot of positive momentum for Napoli. That to me is worrisome going on the road. I know they've been a pretty good road side this season. They've actually got, I think, the 3rd or 4th best road record in the league. But you mentioned it. Lazio prior to the Supercoppa was in a good run of form, beating Empoli, beating Frosinone, beating Udinese, teams they should beat. Also beating Lecce in the league, and also beating Roma in the Coppa Italia quarterfinals, 1-0 in a pretty drab match, but they got the winner and they got the win. It was 5 in all competitions before losing to Inter on Friday, 3-0. They got hammered there. How much win does that take out of their sales? I don't know. Um, but if I'm tipping a side here, I'm probably looking at the home side more likely to get the result. Um, Plus 125, good number, but don't think I love it enough to take a risk on that money line because I don't really trust either of these sides' money line here. It's probably not something I'm going to look at. This almost feels like an under match to me just because Napoli has not been scoring much. Um, but as good as both those
Yeah.
money line numbers are, I don't think I could take either one. And I'm looking at the draw no bet. Lazio minus 165 is not really playable. Don't think I trust Napoli enough at plus 125 either.
Yeah, I think this is one where Nick's not here, so I'll be able to say it without feeling any sort of guilt and jinxing him. I think you just got to kind of plug your nose and just take Lazio money line at home. They are in the right vein of form. Napoli, as you mentioned, haven't been scoring many goals. I think in their last 7 matches, they have 5 goals and 4 red cards. So, not exactly the right balance of statistics there. Struggling without Osimhen, obviously. I think Raspadori hasn't looked great from as far as I can tell. He certainly hasn't taken the opportunity to light the world on fire and make a case for himself. So I think the lack of goals there and knowing how Lazio usually set up, I think Napoli will find it difficult to get a goal in this one. And you mentioned that trend of conceding first. It's not really a match where you really want to concede first when you have a defensive setup
Yeah.
like Lazio at home. It just makes it very challenging. So I think you just gotta deal with it. It is a scary kind of wager to make, but I think you just gotta be happy that you're getting plus money if it comes out the way that it should. So at least that's a little bit of fortuitous, but I really don't see Napoli getting much of anything here. It's just there hasn't been any signs of a significant turnaround. And I'll call it out. I am a little bit biased because I did say back in October, late October, that I thought this kind of scenario with Napoli, especially coming into AFCON, could play out as it is now. So I'm inclined to double down on my original take from October and keep it going with a Lazio win here. Which I think where would that if Lazio win here, how does that shape out with the table? Does that put them firmly into fourth, or do they have to deal with Fiorentina?
So it depends. The table's a little wonky now because of the Super Copa
Oh
the
yeah,
past week. There was 4 matches that didn't get played. I said this on my own podcast. I don't know why Steady I would have scheduled the 4 teams that are all in the Super Copa as like being head to head this match week and just postpone those matches. They end up postponing 8 teams from playing. So now you got a bunch of teams on 21, bunch of teams on 20.
yeah,
Um, if you look from 4 down to 8, you have Fiorentina on 34 with 20 matches played. Atalanta is on 20 matches played, 33 points. Same with Lazio. And then it's Roma, 21 matches played, 32 points. Bologna, 20 matches, 32 points. And Napoli, 20 matches played, 31 points. So you can kind of see that if things go right for Lazio this weekend, if they were to get the win, Fiorentina were to drop points, it's them and Atalanta could be level on fourth. They could be ahead of Atalanta depending on the result. So Lazio could really establish themselves firmly in that top 4 fight. A loss for Napoli could really be harmful to them, especially if Roma can win their match, and depending on what happens with the Atalanta match, and even if Fiorentina gets some kind of result, like Napoli, things could go south pretty poorly. I
yeah.
think for them.
They are edging closer and closer to bottom half of the table, which I'm gonna have to go back and clip it. I think when we talked about if Napoli were considered legitimate title contenders back in October, I said it's more likely for them to finish bottom half of the table than it is for them to finish in first place. So I may have to go do a little search through the archives and see if I can find that because I vaguely remember saying something along those lines.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
think Genoa will catch them and drop them to 11th, but Torino's on their tail, three back.
yeah,
It could be
you never know.
joint 10th by the end of this weekend. But yeah,
You,
I
you
agree. I
never
think
know.
they are edging closer to missing Europe altogether than they are top 4, especially
Oh,
if they were to
for
drop
sure.
all 3 points here.
For sure. Yeah, I think them making an appearance in Europa next year it's a tough task. I know they were really only 1 point behind those spots, but again, just the way that they've been trending the last 2 months, there's going to be some big turnaround. And I don't frankly know what it is unless they find some super manager that's willing to come in and they go through. It would be what their fourth manager in over a year at this point.
Yeah, if they have to bring in somebody else,
So
and I know there's talks about Mourinho being interested in the job. Don't know if he would take over mid-season or if that's more of an eye toward next season, but
Yeah.
they have not adequately replaced Spalletti by any means, and that is their biggest issue right now, and they're really feeling it.
Yeah. So I think that's my play here. I think you're right. It does scream like an under game, which is why, to me, if Lazio do score first, it's a pretty good chance that they get all 3 points. But with the under being minus 170,
Yeah,
I don't think you
can't
can
play
really
it.
touch it.
Yeah, can't touch it.
So I think you leave that alone. The play right now would be Lazio money line, and then I'm sure Nick will come in and tell us later that we should have told corners. Corners would have been a lock. I don't know which way it would be, but Nick, I guarantee you, he has an angle on corners in this match.
Yeah,
So
that's been his
um,
new angle too for trying to like get a team that's too big on the money line and trying to like get it to a playable number. He's been toying around with corners a lot. I know.
yeah,
That is his play. He loves corners.
I'll make him tweet out a corner pick for this game, whether it's like Napoli team corners, Lazio team corners, or team corners in general. We'll have him tweet one out before match day. All right, I think that's a good segue into our second match of the weekend that we're looking at in Italy, featuring another contender for that top four spot and the potential league leaders. I know they are one match fewer played than Juventus,
Yeah.
and so it's going to be Inter traveling to Fiorentina. Fiorentina, bit heavier underdog in this one, even at home at plus 280. Draw line is plus 245. Inter right now are going off at minus 115. I think that number has been changing even as we've been talking about picks earlier today. So keep an eye on that. And the total in this one looks like it's a toss up. You got over 2.5 at minus 110, under 2.5 at minus 115. So maybe we'll start there, Coach. We'll save the who we think will win this one because I think that's maybe a bit of an easier question. But where do you see this one going in terms of goals scored? Do you think that this is one where Inter, who've been on a bit of a scoring binge lately, continue that trend and they can, kick in another couple of goals, or do you think they play a little bit more conservative on the road and this one ends up going under?
Yeah, so this is a tricky one. More because Fiorentina plays a lot of low score matches than Inter. I think Inter is a club that most matches will get two. It's a matter of does Fiorentina get one, or vice versa. Does Fiorentina find a way to get two and hold Inter in checks to some extent? The reverse fixture was a 4-0 Inter win at the San Siro. So Inter has plenty of firepower to score on this Fiorentina side. I know when we talk the reverse fixture, these are like early in the season matches now because we're just turning the calendar back around. But this is definitely I can see why the books have this as a toss up because Inter feels like a team that it play another top side, maybe get a 2-0, 2-1 win, or maybe there's a 1-1 draw coming out. Like it's tricky. I can see it going a lot of different ways. I'm probably not playing the total, even though the total is a very playable number at minus 110 or minus 115, depending on if you go over under. Just because for me, this is a tough one to figure out in terms of how many goals will we get. Um, I know there's some good numbers on the money line and draw no bet, depending on who you like. I could even see if you wanted to get a little extra juice on a team on the money line, you might go the team in over 1.5. I think you get 2 goals in this match. But I don't think you even have to go there with the way these money line numbers are shaking out.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, if I'm taking one of the totals, I'm going to probably take the over just based off of recent form. Inter have been scoring. I know they had the 1-0 win over Napoli, but aside from that, I think they had
Three
what was
nothing
it,
over
3-0 win over
Lazio and
Lazio,
yeah.
5-1 over Monza in recent weeks. So they're scoring a lot right now. So I could see them getting out pretty quick on this one, especially maybe wanting to get a quick lead off the or on the road. Not Fiorentina, on the other hand, just conceded 3 to Napoli, had a 2-2 draw against Udinese in recent weeks. So I know this is a small sample size, but if we want to buy into trends, that seems like this is a game where Inter gets at least two. And so maybe that's another angle we look at is maybe we look at both teams to score. So, Coach, I don't know if you want to pull that up while I go through the rest of my
Yeah.
logic, but um, I think Inter have been certainly on a roll in recent weeks and just in form in general. They have 8 wins in their last 10 games. And it seems like it's going to be a game where Fiorentina are probably going to have to get some form of attack going. They're not going to just sit there in like a Mourinho style and absorb, Inter's pressure the whole game. So if Fiorentina can get you one, I think this is an easy over at minus 110. The question is, what's the better odds? Are both teams to score? Is that a better number?
Minus
So
140.
So that's, I think that's it, right? If you think Fiorentina are getting one, both teams to score minus 140, I think you're better off just taking the total over 2.5 at minus 110. What do you
Yeah.
think? Does that logic play out?
Yeah,
Check me if I'm wrong,
I
coach.
think you're better off taking the over than the both teams to score here at that number, considering you get minus 110 versus minus 140. I think if you get both teams to score, I do think you get the over. It just has that feel, like you said, the way Inter's been scoring, the rate they've been scoring at, I do think you're more likely to get the over.
Cool.
And talking about corners, I noticed in the
Nope.
trends, just because I know Nick loves to bring up his corners. SofaScore, they do their corners at less than or more than 10.5 usually. Fiorentina's going under 10.5 in 10 straight matches. Inter's going under 10.5 at 5 straight. I don't know what the corner number is being played at right now. Let's see. The corner set at 8.5 at minus 140 for the over. So
They know.
the books know.
They
They
know.
know these teams aren't going over 10.5, but they certainly might go
Yeah.
over 8.5. So yeah,
Yeah, I think I
I guess
fade
we
that trend. I think
guess
I'd
the
take the over at 8.5. I think
yeah,
that's
let
books
me look
getting
back at the first match what
getting
the number
cute, trying to
was.
dare people to, fall in love with that under corners and then seeing that
Ooh,
number and trying to
guess how many
tough it out.
corners they had total in the 4-0 Inter win at the San Siro early in the season.
I'm gonna say Inter had 10, Fiorentina had 2.
1-1, two total,
Woo!
one corner each in a four
Wow.
nothing match. Yeah,
Well, I guess
so
that makes sense.
that's
I guess
wild.
everything that Inter hit went into the back of the net, didn't go
Yeah,
out. That's the
and I guess
thing.
Fiorentina
If you
just
want
didn't
corners,
generate
you
enough.
can't have
Yeah,
goals. You need
wild.
somebody to clear it out behind the net.
Yeah.
Um, well, now
I
I'm
I have a
back.
lock in this match, so I'm not gonna give my favorite bet yet. I'll save it. But there is something I
Yeah.
do like.
Yeah, there's some it's probably similar to what I like. I won't tip the reasoning. Inter Milan at minus 115, minus 110, depending on when you were looking at the lines. Seems pretty good deal. A win here puts them back into first place over Juve. Actually, I think Juve may play earlier in the weekend, so that may not actually be true, but they have a game in hand over Juve. So at the very least, it'll kind of keep them as like the potential front runner in that
Yeah.
race. Even though Juve is our future pick for the Scudetto dating back to, I think, September or October. We said that you should get in while you can. Um, but I think Inter can get it done in this one. It seems like a very winnable match, even given the difficulty of the fixture.
Yeah, and just one other match. We didn't have it listed on our ones to cover, but one to keep an eye on also is Milan hosting Bologna. Bologna were the darlings of the first half of the season in Serie A. They've now dropped a couple matches now, and they are sitting down there in eighth position in the table, 32 points. They are traveling to the San Siro. The books are starting to fade Bologna, really, because when you look at the lines here, you've got Milan minus 155 at home, Bologna is plus 370 on the road, and this is a team that was doing pretty well on the road, at least getting draws, getting results. Their draw no bet is at plus 265 in this one. They are, like I said, not in a great run of form. They have, I'm going to read it off here. Their last 4 matches, after they beat Atalanta on December 23rd, 1-0 at home, they lost to Udinese away 3-0. That was one that one of us had, or maybe it was the pod lock. I don't remember. 1-1 draw against Genoa at home. Uh, Lost to Fiorentina on penalty kicks in the Coppa Italia quarterfinals, and then last weekend, or rather 2 weekends ago, yeah, 2 weekends ago, because they were one of the teams that had their match, postponed for the Super Copa. 2-1 loss to Cagliari. So I don't know if the week off did them any good, but they're desperate for a win, and Milan's been in pretty good form for the most part. So this could be one that really puts them, similar to Napoli, I think, in a tough position for even maybe Europa, because this is a team that maybe starts to fade if they can't string together a couple wins.
Yeah,
So something to
I
keep an
like
eye
the
on.
line of thinking, to be honest with you. Before we move on to our picks, I'll filibuster for Nick with just one question for you, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Roma facing off against their bogey club, Salernitana. 2 draws in their last 2 matches. Salernitana double chances plus 130. Can Roma get all 3 points this weekend? Or it's Monday, I guess, so it's not even the
Yeah,
weekend.
it's Monday. I think they have to. First of all, I mean, they should have when they played the first opening match of the season. This was the opener. It was a brace from Andrea Belotti, but it was also a brace from Antonio Condreva. I mean, they were like two wonder
Some
goals from
great
Condreva.
goals from
Yeah,
Candreva, right?
yeah. Turned back the clock like prime years and really pulled them out. Like out of nowhere. So I think considering the form that Salernitana is in, I'm not even taking a double chance even down in Salerno. And I don't think that's me even being like a Roma homer. I just don't think they're a club you can trust. I mean, they were up 1-0 this past week and ended up blowing that match to, I believe it was Genoa, if I remember off the top of my head, because I remember wanting
Salernitana?
to. Yeah.
Yeah, Genoa.
Yeah, I remember wanting to take Genoa. I didn't, and then Genoa was down early, and I'm like, oh, maybe it was better. I didn't put that bet in, and then they ended up winning anyway. So I'm not trusting Salernitana even on the double chance at this point.
Man, I tried to give you a chance to like reverse jinx your team and fake some enthusiasm for Salernitana's ability to get a result at home. And you didn't take it, coach. It's
Yeah,
on you now. If
could come
there's
back to
drop
bite
points
me.
here, we'll talk next week. And I just want to be fair. I gave you a chance.
And if Roma, I'm going to say right now, I mean, Roma plays the last match of the match day on Monday. They'll already have known what happens in those 3 matches prior that we just discussed, and all those matches affect the table around them. And if there's at minimum 3 of those teams are dropping points, they have to take advantage. Maybe there's 4 or 5 if there's a couple of draws. They have no choice but to win this match against Salernitana, really, if they want to
Yeah,
stay in the mix.
could be a signature win for De Rossi, some might say.
I don't know if you
All right.
can call anyone against Salernitana a signature, but it would help.
Enough ball busting. We'll get into our hat trick of picks next. Nick did not show up, so we have his picks written in text, so we'll read those out at the end. But we'll start out with my first lock of the week. I'm going straight FA Cup. We're around that time where there's enough teams have been eliminated that you have some decent matchups going on. But there's still a lot of, League Two, League One teams that are in it. Potential upset alerts. We saw quite a few last year. So I'm going to try and see if I can't get on top of a couple of those. My first one, I'm taking Newport County. It's a League Two team at home versus Manchester United. Newport County, I'm taking +3. So they're getting 3 goals with the spread. It's -135. And honestly, like sometimes you just have to believe in something going right in this world. I don't know that Newport County will 100% get the win in this. I would love it. It would be an absolute joy to see the reactions of a Manchester United fans losing to a League Two team in FA Cup. And it can certainly happen, but I don't need that to even be the case. I think Newport County will show up at home. Usually when those fans are showing up to see a team like Manchester United come into their ground, they're just hoping to see a goal from their club, and I think that can happen. So if Newport County can get a goal, that means United are gonna have to score 5 for this bet to lose. And we know United's issues with their forwards, their inability to score. I don't see Rashford getting a hat trick in this one. I don't see Hoyland getting a hat trick in this one. So aside from either of those things happening, I think it's a safe bet that United will be kept to at an absolute maximum 4 goals. But I could also see Newport County defending like savages and just keeping United frustrated for 90 minutes. So I'll take the +3 at home. I think Newport County will show up for me, and it'll be great if they actually do get a solid result because not only do I win the lock, but I'll get to gloat online against all the United fans.
Yeah, I mean, would be something for them to at least keep it close, being the League Two side playing
Just
United.
one
Crazier
goal.
things
Just
happen
give me
crazier
like a
things have
jammy
happened.
corner kick, like just a corner kick. It's a little jammy. Somebody gets a foot in and it finds its way to the back of the net. And I think that's all that we really need for this one.
Yeah, and the FA Cup is funny like that sometimes. So you never know. And United, we've talked about it. They have their problem scoring goals at times. Maybe this is the
They
one where
do.
they put up 7 and figure things out. But who knows? I mean, +3 is a
Maybe
lot of
Anthony
goals.
gets his first goal of the season. Maybe that's what's written in the stars here. And all the memes stop. That'd be
All
a
the
real
memes,
shame.
all the
That's
memes.
how this is
Some of
gonna
them are really
lose.
good. Yeah.
Anthony will get a hat trick, and then I'll lose not just my lock, but my favorite meme on the internet right now.
All right, my first one, since I already hinted at it, I'm going Inter Milan -115 at Fiorentina. That's the money line bet. League leaders are fresh off that Supercopa victory that we talked about. I expect them to continue that form in the league against an inconsistent Viola side, one that they hammered 4-0. I don't think they hammer them 4-0 again, but I do like them to get the win.
Yeah, like I said, I like that one a lot too. I left it for you guys. I did my picks first thing in the morning. I was tempted by it, but I knew you guys weren't going to want to dive too deep into the FA Cup, so I took one for the squad and left it for either you or Nick, and you were the benefactor of that.
Should
I'm
have made
gonna
it.
go.
Should have made the pod lock.
Yeah, maybe, but there's one thing that concerns me about this line, and it's related to my next pick,
Mm.
um, which is that line is almost too good to be true. And that's what's going on here with Chelsea versus Aston Villa in the FA Cup. Aston Villa having a great season, one of the top four clubs probably in England right now. Chelsea not having such a great season. They've been slowly figuring things out, but still getting injury setbacks. I think Nkunku got hurt again, so he'll be out for the foreseeable future. But the lines in this one, to me, are just very backwards. Chelsea, although they're at home, are sitting at +10. Aston Villa is +220. And if you're looking at draw no bet, Aston Villa at +140. That honestly, that's really what I wanted was Aston Villa draw no bet at +40. Like the line makes no sense. But much like I had to do last weekend, I'm going to repeat it this weekend because it worked. I'm taking Chelsea money line at +110. It really feels like this is another one of those lines that the books have set up that they're trying to trick people and funneling them into picking Aston Villa, and Chelsea's going to find some way to get a result. So I'm going to fade that. I'm going to fade what I think is going to happen. I'm taking Chelsea money line because there's no real reason why the books would have the line sets this way unless something was up.
Man, all right. So that's yeah. I might be one of those people that falls for the Villa
Coach, I
line,
know
but
you're betting Aston Villa
yeah.
+140 draw no bet. I know
Well,
you're
plus
betting that.
140. Like, how do you not bet that, right? Like, it's how do you not? So, yeah, I'll
It
probably
makes
be
no
that
sense.
person.
I
And I'm
sat there
happy
and
to
I was
admit
like,
it.
I wished the draw no bet line was like +100. I was like, if it was +100, I'd be fine taking it. At +140, that's too much value for such a risk-free bet. So I don't know. I have to take Chelsea money
Yeah.
line. It makes me very uncomfortable, but it's the only thing that makes sense in this world.
All right. So, we'll see what happens, but maybe I'll be able to help you out. I'll take it. So I'll be the one suckered in. I'll lose a few dollars and help get a win for the pod. So, my second one, I'm going with one that we kind of talked about a little bit. Roma team total over 1.5 is -120 at Salernitana. Roma's attack showed some newfound rhythm under De Rossi last weekend. A lot more quick passing, a lot more attacking impetus. Salernitana is last for a reason. I expect the Giallorossi to score at least two, like they did in the reverse fixture. Hopefully, this time taking home all 3 points. And this was another one Nick also liked. So Nick loved the Inter pick. He loved this pick. I just happened to beat him to him. So
Early bird gets the worm.
yeah.
So sorry, Nick. You at the very least gotta show up to the pod if you want your top billing and picks. All right. My third and final lock. We talked about how last year there was a lot of upsets in the FA Cup, and I think nobody epitomizes that level of upset more than this club that I'm taking, and that is Wrexham. I'm taking them +1 at Blackburn, which is -110. Uh, the good news is, while Wrexham are working their way up, I think they're sitting in second place right now in League Two, close to promotion into League One. Blackburn, on the other hand, are sitting close to the bottom of, I believe, the championship. So I think if everything goes well, these two clubs will actually be in the same division or same league next year. Blackburn, I think, have conceded something like 50 goals on the season already. Their defense is leaky. So I'll take Wrexham here. They're not at home, which is unfortunate. I think their home atmosphere last year was great. But taking the +1, I think, will kind of balance that out for me. So even if they do get an unfortunate loss, I think they'll keep it close. The +1 will save me in that instance. But if they can get any sort of result or capture that magic from last year, if what was his name, Paul Mullins, I think, was the guy
Mm-hmm.
scoring all the goals for them. If he can make another appearance for me, maybe we'll get another little upset on our hands, and we'll take Newport County and Wrexham to the bank. I don't know how many people can say that.
Yeah, everybody's favorite underdog after the Welcome to Wrexham series on FX. So it would be
Yeah.
pretty cool to see them get a win. And if they continue to climb the league table, they might be the next Cinderella story and
Yeah,
maybe trying to find their way to the Premier League, a
they're
la
close.
Luton Town, right?
I think if they can at least
So,
get to the championship, that's a massive success for them. Like
oh
that'd be
yeah,
huge. They're
yeah,
close. They'll be
yeah.
one league away, I think, after this season.
Yeah, it's been quite the turnaround. Obviously, the injection of star power and funds helps, but still have to climb your way up from those lower levels where you got to find these players like Mullins who are willing to play at that level, maybe, and help get the team up. So interesting to see. Would be a fun story to see them make a couple wins in the FA Cup again. So my last one, I'm going back to the Bundesliga, and it is Eintracht Frankfurt. This is a Friday match, money line -105, hosting Mainz. Eintracht is coming off a tough 2-2 draw on the road after being up 2-0 at Darmstadt. That followed a 1-0 home win over Leipzig. I like to bounce back here, find that same form they had at home against a tough Leipzig side to win that match at home. I like the way they can do that against Mainz as well. And I think minus 105 is too good of a number to pass up on a Frankfurt side. That was in pretty good form before last weekend's draw.
I told Coach I think we should stay away from Bundesliga based off of our performance of the one Bundesliga pick last weekend, but you can't tell Coach Worldwide to
Well,
stay
I
in the
did hit I
confines of
did
one
hit one
country.
last week. I hit that Leverkusen bet, which was a big one.
Okay. All right. That's fair. I forgot about that one. I'm sorry.
I'm back fashion.
I'm just very bitter about Stuttgart's unbelievably poor performance
Yeah.
against Bochum of all clubs. All right. That leaves us with Nick's 3 picks. He did not give us a whole lot of context to them. So we'll kind of rattle through them. His first one, he's going FA Cup. He's taking Everton, Fulham, both teams to score at minus 140. That, I think Fulham is the home team in this, which should help them. But, you know, Everton, I'm not a huge fan of them scoring right now. I think they've been offensively challenged in the last few weeks, but maybe Nick is onto something here. Minus 140 is kind of surprisingly short on odds for that. I would have considered that maybe around 110. So maybe he's onto something. Second one, he has Milan team total chances FC over 1.5 minus 120. I think he's been riding Milan in goals a lot in the recent weeks. I don't know if he's been doing specifically team total, but certainly overs and both teams to score. So I think he's going to continue that trend. Who do Milan have this weekend, Coach?
Bologna. Hosting
Oh,
Bologna.
yeah, that's right. Bologna. Yeah. You're right.
So he's fading. He's fading his
his
favorite
club.
side. Yeah.
What else would Nick do besides fade his own clubs? Very on brand for him. And his last one, Genoa, Lecce, both teams to score plus 115. I mean, that's a deep cut. I can't even pretend that I have any rationale for why he's going with that. Do you help me out, Coach? What would Nick be thinking
Genoa tends to be an under team. They have had some like 1-1 draws. I know last week they had that 2-1 win over Salernitana. I'm guessing he's looking there at this point. But yeah, I guess that's where he's going now. Just for context for our listeners, he did also love the Inter Moneyline and Roma one. So maybe just tail those. It's 2 of us and 3 of us really like the Inter pick. I don't know. I don't know. We won't be getting his B picks here, but maybe his B picks win. So I don't know.
I was gonna say I think Nick may have saw the plus sign on the both teams to score, and that's what he liked on it.
Yeah.
So don't know that we have to go too deep into it. All right, Coach.
Yeah, both teams to score at plus money is not something you see very often. So
only in Serie A do you see that, really.
Pod
all
lock.
Right, Coach. Yeah, give us the pod lock. Had a loser last week, so we got to get back on the winning train. What do we have cooked up this weekend?
We're going to Spain. So after Germany let us down last week, we are going to Spain. La Liga. Girona, league leaders, draw no bet, minus 120 at Celta Vigo. Girona has only lost once all season and are unbeaten on the road, 7 wins and 3 draws. Meanwhile, Celta has the 3rd worst home record in La Liga. We're taking the league leaders here. Minus 120 on the draw no bet is a great number for a club that's been playing so well. Get that protection against the draw. We just, this one jumped right out at us.
Coach, I'm going to try and sell you on a parlay. All right. We're going to take Girona minus or draw no bet at minus 120. And we're going to take Aston Villa draw no bet at plus 140. I think that comes out to being plus 340 in a parlay. Maybe plus 240. Yeah, plus 240 on the parlay.
I like it. Because I like them both individually. And the fact that you're getting them draw no bet, right, I think is what really sells me on it, because it gives you the protection that even if one of them does push, as long as neither loses, obviously, if you get the push on one, you're still getting pretty decent payout on it.
Right. That's the thing that I like about that is even if you don't nail both legs, if you get a push on one, you're still having an okay payout. But dude, plus 240 for a Villa and Girona draw no bet parlay is. Yeah, we may have to. Well, I was gonna say we have to put that out on Patreon. Too late. We just gave it out to the masses. Yeah. But maybe I'll.
As long as you're listening to the full episode, then they've got it. That's
right. All right. I think that about does it for this week. We'll be back next week. We'll make sure Nick joins. If you are not subscribed to us, you can subscribe to us on any of your podcast platforms, whether that's Spotify, Apple, Google, you name it. We're also on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube now, you're seeing our faces. If you want to see our faces, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Kicks and Picks Pod. And as mentioned, we have a Patreon. So if you want everything a day early, we try to get these turned around before we push them out to the public onto our Patreon channel. If you want our written picks, if you want some of the extra content we do here and there with props, make sure you go to our Patreon. I think it's $5 a month, pretty basic level, but you get everything. We're not here to do 8 tiers and stagger things out. So hopefully we'll see you on one of those channels in the coming weeks. But until then, enjoy your week and may your bets all be winners.